Before you judge this, ask yourself one question. Who did you become the last time you touched more money than you expected? Not what you bought, not what you posted, but who you became. Because money doesn't change men, it unmasks them. And once the mask comes off, there is no putting it back on. Most people don't realize this until it's too late. They think money is a ladder. Climb higher, feel stronger, look important. But Machiavelli would laugh at that image, because ladders are visible. Power never is. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one tells you in motivational speeches. If money truly created power, every rich man would be feared. But they're not. Some are mocked. Some are used. Some are surrounded by smiles that sharpen into knives the moment they turn away. So why does wealth liberate a few, while enslaving the many? That's the mystery Machiavelli obsessed over. Not money itself, but its effect on the human soul. And once you understand what he saw, you'll never chase income the same way again. Rising tension. There is a reason sudden wealth ruins men. Lottery winners collapse. Athletes self-destruct. Entrepreneurs who scale too fast implode from the inside. People say they couldn't handle it. That's wrong. They handled money exactly as they were built to handle it. Money doesn't introduce new behavior, it removes friction. The timid man becomes reckless. The resentful man becomes cruel. The insecure man becomes loud, flashy, addicted to validation. And the disciplined man, he becomes invisible. That's the part that terrifies people. Because we're taught power must announce itself, luxury, status, noise. But Machiavelli studied courts, kings, and empires long enough to know a brutal rule. The loudest man in the room is rarely the one in control. Power hates attention. Attention attracts resistance. And money, when misunderstood, creates nothing but attention. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. When you imagine being wealthy, what do you see yourself doing? Buying, showing, proving, or moving quietly while others compete for applause? Your answer already tells me whether money would free you or finish you. The first crack in the illusion. Most men believe wealth equals security. More money means fewer fears, more buffers, more options. But Machiavelli saw a darker pattern. The moment a man needs money to feel safe, he has surrendered leverage. Because need creates dependency. Dependency creates predictability. And predictability is the enemy of power. That's why the truly powerful don't chase wealth for comfort. They use it to remove pressure points. They buy silence. They buy time. They buy optionality. And they never confuse these with happiness. Here's the irony. The man who needs wealth to feel important will always spend it trying to look important. And the man who doesn't need it, he accumulates it effortlessly. Not because he's lucky, but because he isn't leaking power through ego. That is the first inversion Machiavelli understood, and most men never do. Micro cliffhanger. If money is a mirror, then the question isn't how do I get more of it? The question is, what will it reveal when I do? Because in the next rule, Machiavelli exposes why chasing income alone quietly destroys your leverage, and why the men who understand this stop competing entirely. The fastest way to lose power is to chase money like it owes you something. That sounds backwards, but Machiavelli would tell you this is where most men ruin themselves, quietly, rationally, and with full confidence they're doing the right thing. Because chasing money feels productive, it feels ambitious, it feels responsible. But power doesn't respond to effort. It responds to position, and the man who chases is never in position. Rising tension. Look closely at the modern hustle culture. Everyone is grinding. Everyone is optimizing. Everyone is loud about how hard they're working. And yet, very few are actually in control. Machiavelli noticed this centuries ago in royal courts. The men who begged for favor worked the hardest. They flattered, they performed, they exhausted themselves. And they were discarded first. Why? Because need is visible, and visible need repels power. The moment you need money, to feel safe, to feel respected, to feel ahead, you start making decisions from fear instead of strategy. You accept bad deals. You tolerate disrespect. You rush instead of waiting. You explain yourself when silence would have been stronger. And every one of those decisions leaks power. The illusion of progress. Here's the trap most men fall into. They say, I'll get rich first, then I'll have leverage. Machiavelli would shake his head at that sentence. Because leverage doesn't come after wealth. Wealth follows leverage. Powerful men don't ask, how do I make more money? They ask, who needs me and why? They position themselves where decisions happen, where outcomes depend on them, where removing them creates chaos. Money flows toward that position naturally, but the hustler never sees this. He believes speed equals success. More hours, more noise, more exposure. Meanwhile, the disciplined man is doing something far more dangerous. He is becoming necessary. Microshift. This is why some men with modest income command respect, while others with millions are treated like disposable wallets. One is positioned, the other is replaceable. And replaceable men will always chase money, because money is the only thing that temporarily numbs the fear of irrelevance. Machiavelli didn't warn against ambition. He warned against visible ambition, because visible ambition signals hunger, and hunger tells others exactly how to control you, offer money, withhold approval, delay rewards, and the hungry man will dance. The quiet realization. Ask yourself something honestly. If your income disappeared tomorrow, would your influence disappear with it? Would people still call, still listen, still hesitate before crossing you, or would silence replace attention overnight? That answer reveals everything. Because money chased without power underneath it creates fragile men, and fragile men are easy to manipulate. Cliffhanger. So if chasing money weakens you, and needing money exposes you, then what did Machiavelli believe you should build first? In the next part, we uncover the second rule, the one about control, and why the men who master it never worry about income again. Money follows control, not effort, not intelligence, control. And the reason most men never gain real wealth is because they spend their lives trying to control outcomes instead of controlling conditions. Machiavelli saw this mistake destroy kingdoms, rising tension. Most people want results, more income, more security, more recognition. So they chase outcomes, they try to force wins, they pressure situations, they negotiate desperately, they argue, they over-explain, they rush decisions, and they call it ambition. But Machiavelli understood something brutal. The man who fights for outcomes reveals weakness, because outcomes are visible, and visible struggles invite interference. Real power works upstream. The hidden mechanism. Machiavelli didn't focus on what men achieved. He studied how they structured their environments. Who controlled access? Who controlled timing? Who controlled information? Who decided when silence ended and action began? These men rarely looked impressive. They didn't posture, they didn't boast, they didn't rush. But everyone waited on them, and that waiting was power. Micro cliffhanger. Here's where most men panic. They think control means domination, force, aggression, threats. Wrong. Control is quieter than that. Control is when people adjust their behavior without you asking, when deals change tone once you enter the room, when conversations slow down, when others seek your approval instead of your attention. That doesn't come from money. Money only amplifies it once it already exists. The discipline test. Machiavelli believed self-control came first, because a man who cannot control his impulses will never control leverage. Watch how men behave when opportunity appears. They rush, they brag, they overcommit, they reveal desperation masked as confidence, and every time they do, they surrender position. The disciplined man does the opposite. He delays. He listens more than he speaks. He withholds commitment until terms reveal themselves, and that restraint terrifies impulsive men because restraint signals options. The wealth illusion cracks. This is why some men gain money and immediately lose authority. They buy louder cars, bigger watches, public validation. They want to feel powerful, but power is not a feeling. It is a condition, and conditions don't announce themselves. They simply dictate reality. Microshift. Ask yourself this. In your life right now, what do you control? Not own, not earn. Control. Do you control access to your time? Do you control when people hear from you? Do you control the pace of decisions? Do you control scarcity around your presence? Or are you always available, always explaining, always reacting? Because reactive men can make money, but they never keep power. The uncomfortable truth. Machiavelli believed wealth should arrive as a side effect of positioning, not a pursuit. The man who controls conditions doesn't chase opportunity. Opportunity organizes itself around him. And when money comes, it comes quietly, without ego, without celebration, which is exactly why it stays. Cliffhanger. But here's where it gets dangerous. Once a man gains control, the world tries to test him, tempt him, expose him, pull him back into noise. In the next rule, Machiavelli reveals why restraint, not expansion, is what separates temporary wealth from permanent dominance. The moment you gain momentum, the world dares you to overreach, and most men fail right there. Not because they're weak, but because they mistake expansion for power. Machiavelli knew this trap well. He watched men rise carefully for years, then destroy themselves in months by taking one step too far. Rising tension. Here's the paradox most people can't tolerate. Power grows faster when you don't use it. That sounds insane in a world obsessed with action. Post more, scale faster, buy bigger, move louder. But Machiavelli studied what happens after a man succeeds. Attention increases, expectations rise, enemies awaken, and temptation whispers, "Now is the time to show them." That whisper has ended more empires than war, because expansion creates visibility, and visibility invites challenge, the fatal mistake. Most men believe restraint is weakness. They think holding back means missing out, but Machiavelli saw restraint as a test. When a man gains influence, he is offered three poisons: ego, greed, impatience. He wants credit, he wants speed, he wants proof. And the moment he indulges even one, his position becomes predictable. Predictability is blood in the water. Micro cliffhanger. This is why some wealthy men are constantly attacked, while others remain untouchable. It's not luck. It's restraint. The restrained man doesn't explain his moves. He doesn't announce intentions. He doesn't respond to every provocation. He lets others reveal themselves first. And while they speak, he maps their weaknesses. The discipline of silence. Machiavelli valued silence more than speech, because speech leaks information, emotion, desire. Silence forces others to fill the gap. They overtalk, they justify, they reveal motives they meant to hide. Silence turns impatience into a weapon, and money amplifies this effect. A wealthy man who talks too much becomes a target. A wealthy man who moves quietly becomes a mystery, and mystery creates hesitation. The illusion of growth. Here's what most men don't realize. You don't lose power when you stop expanding. You lose power when others can track your expansion. That's why Machiavelli warned against rapid growth. Fast gains attract alliances of resistance. Slow, quiet gains dissolve resistance before it forms. Power is not built by how much you take, but by how little others notice you taking. Microshift. Ask yourself honestly, do you rush to announce progress? Do you need validation when things go well? Do you feel uncomfortable when no one notices your wins? That discomfort is dangerous, because it pushes men to trade long-term dominance for short-term applause, and applause fades fast. The silent advantage. The disciplined man uses money to remove noise, not create it. He buys privacy, he buys time, he buys distance. He understands that every unnecessary move creates a new angle of attack, so he waits. And while others burn energy proving themselves, he compounds position. Cliffhanger. But restraint alone isn't enough, because even a quiet man can be controlled if others dictate his dependencies. In the next rule, Machiavelli exposes the most dangerous form of weakness, reliance, and why the man who depends on approval, systems, or stability is never truly wealthy. The most dangerous cage isn't built with bars. It's built with comfort. And the man who mistakes stability for security will never be free, no matter how much money he earns. Machiavelli feared dependence more than poverty, because poverty can sharpen a man, dependence dulls him. Rising tension. Look around and you'll see it everywhere. Men tied to salaries they hate, reputations they must protect, audiences they must please, systems they dare not question. They call this playing it safe. Machiavelli called it submission, because the moment your survival depends on approval, your power belongs to whoever can withdraw it. And money doesn't save you here. It reveals the chains. The invisible leash. Dependence doesn't announce itself. It whispers things like, "Don't rock the boat. Now's not the right time. Be grateful. Wait until you're bigger." But every delay increases reliance. Every compromise tightens the leash. Machiavelli watched nobles lose influence not because they were poor, but because they needed favors to maintain appearances. They needed allies. They needed praise. They needed stability. and need makes men negotiable. Micro cliffhanger. Here's the cruel truth most men avoid. If you need someone's permission to survive, you are not wealthy. You are rented, and rented men are never feared, only managed. The approval trap. Modern dependence wears a friendly face: followers, likes, clients, bosses, algorithms. Men begin shaping their thoughts around what won't offend. They trade truth for reach, leverage for validation, power for applause. And slowly, they forget who they were before approval paid their bills. Money earned this way comes with invisible terms. Behave, align, stay predictable. Machiavelli would have seen this instantly, the self-sufficiency principle. He believed the strongest position was the one requiring the least permission, not isolation, not arrogance, but independence of outcome. When you can walk away, negotiations change. When you don't need the deal, terms improve. When you don't rely on praise, respect follows. Money becomes dangerous only when it removes dependency, not when it increases it. Microshift. Ask yourself this: who could ruin you by saying no? One person, one platform, one system? If the answer makes your chest tighten, that's not ambition you're feeling. That's a chain. The wealth reframe. Machiavelli didn't chase wealth to accumulate more comforts. He saw money as insulation against coercion. The less you need, the harder you are to control. And the man who cannot be controlled doesn't have to shout. His presence does the work. Cliffhanger. But even independence has a weakness. Because once you're free from dependence, people will test your loyalty, your values, your patience. In the next rule, Machiavelli reveals why alliances can be more dangerous than enemies, and how the wrong association can quietly drain your power. Enemies sharpen you, allies can hollow you out. Machiavelli understood something most men learn too late. The wrong alliance is more dangerous than open opposition, because enemies attack from the front, allies influence from the inside. Rising tension. When a man begins to rise, something predictable happens. People gather. They call it support. They call it partnership. They call it brotherhood. But Machiavelli never trusted proximity without purpose, because every alliance comes with gravity, expectations, obligations, invisible debts. And the more success you have, the more expensive those debts become. The hidden cost of togetherness. Most men believe strength comes from numbers, more connections, more collaborations, more we. But Machiavelli studied courts long enough to see the pattern. Groups dilute authority. Consensus slows decisions. Loyalty fractures under pressure, and blame spreads so no one carries it fully. Power prefers clarity. Groups prefer comfort. That's the conflict. Micro cliffhanger. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you rely on an alliance to maintain position, you've surrendered autonomy. Because now your actions must be approved. Your silence must be explained. Your restraint must be justified. And justification is weakness in disguise. The loyalty illusion. Machiavelli warned that alliances are rarely built on values. They are built on overlapping interests. And interests change. When pressure rises, men protect themselves first. The ally who smiles today will rationalize betrayal tomorrow if it preserves his position, not because he's evil, but because he's human. Power accounts for this. Naivety ignores it. The strategic distance principle. This is why the most powerful men keep distance. Not isolation. Distance. They cooperate without entanglement. They exchange value without dependency. They maintain the ability to exit cleanly, because exit is leverage. The man who can leave calmly controls the room. Microshift. Ask yourself honestly, who are you tied to out of history instead of strategy? Who do you protect even when it costs you position? Who knows too much about your plans? Those answers reveal vulnerabilities, not emotionally, strategically. The wealth connection. Money complicates alliances. When wealth enters the picture, friendship becomes expectation. Expectation becomes entitlement, and entitlement breeds resentment. Machiavelli saw fortunes collapse not from enemies, but from friends who felt owed. The disciplined man prevents this early. Clear terms, limited access, no emotional debts. Cliffhanger. But distance alone isn't enough. Because even when you limit alliances, there is one enemy you can never avoid. Public perception. In the next rule, Machiavelli exposes why reputation is both shield and trap, and how most men destroy their own power trying to protect it. Reputation can make doors open before you knock, and it can lock you inside a version of yourself you no longer control. Machiavelli respected reputation, but he never trusted it, because the same image that shields you from attack can quietly dictate your behavior. Rising tension. Most men think reputation is power. Be known as competent, be known as fair, be known as successful. So they curate, they polish, they protect. But Machiavelli saw the hidden danger. The moment your identity becomes public property, you begin serving it. You hesitate before acting. You soften decisions. You avoid necessary conflict, not because it's wrong, but because it might look bad. And that hesitation is expensive. The reputation trap. Here's the paradox. A strong reputation attracts opportunity, but dependence on reputation destroys autonomy. Men begin asking the wrong question, how will this be perceived? Instead of the right one, what does this secure? Machiavelli warned that a ruler who fears appearing harsh will eventually be forced into cruelty, because delayed firmness breeds chaos, and chaos demands force. Reputation managed poorly creates emergencies. Micro cliffhanger. This is why some men seem powerful, until pressure arrives. The moment their image is threatened, they fold, they explain, they apologize prematurely, they compromise leverage to preserve likability, and in doing so they reveal fear. Fear is readable, and once read, it is exploited. The calculated image. Machiavelli didn't advise abandoning reputation. He advised controlling it. He understood that perception matters, but only when it serves position. A powerful man is not universally liked. He is selectively respected. He allows misunderstanding where it benefits him. He accepts criticism when it filters weak allies. He resists the urge to correct every narrative, because correction signals insecurity. Microshift. Ask yourself this: how often do you act to preserve how you're seen rather than to strengthen your position? How often do you delay a necessary move because it might upset someone? That hesitation isn't morality. It's attachment. And attachment is leverage in someone else's hands. The wealth illusion returns. Money amplifies this trap. With wealth comes visibility. With visibility comes scrutiny. Men who crave admiration become prisoners of it. They spend to maintain image. They perform success instead of consolidating it. Machiavelli saw this pattern endlessly. Those who chased admiration lost power. Those who tolerated discomfort kept it. The controlled persona. The disciplined man uses reputation like armor. He knows when to wear it and when to remove it. He never confuses how he's perceived with who he is. And because of that, he remains free to act decisively when others freeze. Cliffhanger. But reputation is only the outer layer, because beneath image lies something far more dangerous: emotion. In the next rule, Machiavelli reveals why emotional control, not intelligence, is what truly separates rulers from followers. You don't lose power when others oppose you. You lose it the moment emotion begins making decisions for you. Machiavelli didn't fear enemies. He feared uncontrolled reactions. Because emotion doesn't just weaken judgment. It advertises weakness to everyone watching. Rising tension. Most men believe intelligence wins the game. Better ideas, smarter strategies, sharper analysis. But Machiavelli observed something far more decisive. Under pressure, intelligence collapses. Emotion remains. Anger speeds the tongue. Fear rushes timing. Pride blinds perception. Resentment poisons alliances. And the man who believes he is too smart for this is the first to be undone by it. The exposure mechanism. Emotion leaks information. Watch a man who feels slighted. He explains too much. He justifies actions that need no justification. He seeks validation instead of leverage. That's not honesty. That's loss of control. Machiavelli understood that power depends on opacity, and emotion makes men transparent. Micro cliffhanger. Here's what most people miss. You don't have to feel less. You have to show less. The disciplined man experiences emotion fully, but displays it selectively, because display invites manipulation. The moment others know what angers you, what excites you, what scares you, they own a handle. The anger trap. Anger feels powerful. That's why it's dangerous. It creates momentum, urgency, certainty. But Machiavelli warned that anger narrows options. When a man reacts emotionally, he accepts the battlefield chosen by his opponent. He moves on their timeline. He reveals priorities, he abandons patience, and patience is where power compounds. Microshift. Ask yourself this. When was the last time emotion pushed you to respond when silence would have unsettled the other side? When was the last time you had to say something, and later realized waiting would have given you more leverage? That urge to respond is not strength, it's exposure. The wealth test. Money intensifies emotion. Success feeds pride. Loss feeds panic. Attention feeds ego. Men who lack emotional discipline become volatile when wealthy, and volatility attracts predators. Machiavelli saw fortunes lost not through poor strategy, but through emotional missteps that invited attack. The cold advantage. This is why powerful men appear calm under pressure. Not because they feel nothing, but because they feel everything and reveal nothing. They let others burn energy reacting. They let time expose mistakes. They allow emotion to pass before acting, and when they move, it feels inevitable. Cliffhanger. But emotional control alone isn't enough, because even the calmest man can be destroyed by one mistake. Poor timing. In the next rule, Machiavelli reveals why when you act matters more than what you do. The same move, done at the wrong time, becomes a confession of weakness. Machiavelli believed timing wasn't a skill, it was the separator, because intelligence without timing destroys itself. Rising tension. Most men obsess over what to do, what strategy, what investment, what response, what announcement. Very few study when, and that's why they fail in public. They act too early, before conditions harden in their favor, or too late, after leverage has already shifted away from them. Machiavelli saw timing as the hidden architecture of power. Move too soon and you alert resistance. Move too late and you appear reactive. Either way, you lose initiative. The illusion of readiness. Men love the idea of being ready. They wait until they feel confident, prepared, certain. But certainty is not timing. Certainty is comfort, and comfort delays decisive action. Machiavelli observed that power rewards those who move when others are uncertain, not when everyone agrees. That moment feels uncomfortable, lonely, risky, which is why most men miss it. Micro cliffhanger. Here's the brutal truth. If your move feels safe, it's already late. The correct moment never feels obvious. It feels quiet, while others debate, while opinions fragment, while attention is elsewhere. That's when leverage is highest. The crowd delay. Most men wait for consensus. They look around, they watch reactions, they seek reassurance. But Machiavelli knew crowds are slow. By the time consensus forms, conditions have changed. Power belongs to those who act before consensus crystallizes, because once the crowd agrees, competition floods in, and competition destroys margins. Microshift. Ask yourself this. How many opportunities did you recognize, but hesitate on because you wanted more clarity? How many times did you say, let's wait and see? Waiting feels responsible, but waiting often means surrendering initiative to someone less cautious. The wealth trap. Again, money makes timing harder. With resources comes fear of loss. Men become conservative. They protect instead of position. Machiavelli warned that preserving wealth at the wrong moment can cost far more than risking it strategically, because missed timing compounds regret. The silent strike. The disciplined man prepares constantly but acts rarely, and when he acts, it seems sudden to everyone else. They say, where did that come from? It didn't come from nowhere. It came from patience, from watching cycles, from recognizing when resistance was weakest, from understanding that power moves between moments of attention. Cliffhanger. But timing alone doesn't guarantee survival, because after the move is made, there is one final danger: exposure. In the final rule, Machiavelli reveals why true wealth is protected not by force, but by invisibility. The greatest wealth you can possess is not being seen coming. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone, because the most powerful men in history didn't look powerful at all. They looked irrelevant, right up until reality bent around them. Rising. Tension. Most men believe success should be visible, recognition, status, public wins. They want proof. They want acknowledgement. They want the world to know they've arrived. But Machiavelli saw visibility as the final trap. Because what is visible can be tracked. What can be tracked can be predicted. and what can be predicted can be neutralized. Power that announces itself invites resistance. Power that stays quiet rewrites outcomes before resistance forms. The final illusion. Here's the lie modern culture sells relentlessly. If they don't see you winning, you're losing. Machiavelli would have considered that propaganda. He observed that men who broadcast strength invite challenge, men who broadcast wealth invite claims, men who broadcast success invite expectation, and expectation is a leash. The invisible man avoids all three. Micro cliffhanger. Invisibility does not mean hiding. It means misdirection. It means letting others fight battles you've already won, letting others debate outcomes you've already secured, letting others posture while you collect position. Silence is not absence. It is advantage. The wealth revelation. This is why the most dangerous men are often underestimated. They don't signal ambition. They don't provoke envy. They don't chase admiration. They build quietly. They accumulate leverage slowly. They act decisively once and never need to again. Money in their hands doesn't shout, it reinforces. The final test, ask yourself this honestly. If you achieved everything you wanted financially, would you still need people to know? Would you still post? Still prove? Still announce? Or would silence finally feel natural? Because that answer reveals your relationship with power. The 13th rule revealed. Machiavelli's final understanding was simple and terrifying. Money does not protect you. Visibility does not protect you. Reputation does not protect you. Only position does. And position is strongest when it does not require explanation. The disciplined man uses wealth to disappear from unnecessary battles while quietly controlling outcomes. He is not chased. He is not pressured. He is not rushed. Because no one is sure where he stands until standing against him becomes impossible. The final mirror. Money will come and go. Markets will rise and fall. Attention will shift. But the man who masters restraint, independence, emotional control, timing, and invisibility never has to start over. He doesn't chase wealth. Wealth finds him already in position.